Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Pastor John. I'm here with our midweek review. It's a new month, and we're going to be talking about some new people this month, and we're really going to be talking about a guy named Solomon a lot this month. But we're going to kind of delve into Solomon by talking about something else that happened, something that King David, we'll find out, is Solomon's father, does something that is totally displeasing to God. Now, David, if we remember, he's the guy that God kind of anointed him to be the king. He is a man after God's own heart. But we see that even a guy like King David falls into sin. And it starts out by one day King David is up on his roof. He may be chilling out, maybe getting some sun, but he looks over his terrace or whatever he's looking out, and he looks down onto the deck of another house, and he sees a beautiful woman. He looks at her and he's like going, wow, she is amazing. I would really like to get to know her. I might even like to marry her. Matter of fact, she's so beautiful, I want to have her as my own. I want to marry her. Here's the thing. This woman, whose name is Bathsheba, is actually married to a man named Uriah. Uriah is a commander in David's army. So David, in order to get Bathsheba, he comes up and formulates a plan. I think what we should do is attack this other army. We'll send our army, we'll go and we'll fight these people over here. But here, listen, Uriah, here's what I want you to do. I want you to be the guy in front. You know, maybe it'll appear like our troops, they'll see you and it'll fire them up and give them strength. Or maybe the other side will see you and it'll give them great fear, and because you're such a mighty warrior. But David knew this, that usually in battles at that time, because they were kind of hand-to-hand combat or bow and arrow type things or spears, that the people in front normally died in the army. Usually commanders were put in the back and not in the front, and they let, it's almost like a game of chess. They let the pawns go out first, and then the king stays back, and the knights and all them stay behind, and then they come and clean up. And so to put Uriah in front put him in grave danger. But Uriah follows what King David wants him to do, and he follows his orders, and he goes out and he's in front, and guess what? Uriah gets pierced by an arrow and he ends up dying. Now, back in those days, the king could pretty much decree, when somebody died, he could just swoop in and he could take them. Well, he absolutely wanted Bathsheba to be his wife, so of course he swoops in, grabs Bathsheba, and makes him his wife. Does that sound cool? Does that sound like something that is okay? Well, it's not. And somebody noticed it. His name was Nathan. He was a prophet. And he comes up to David and he says, David, man, what you did was, I kind of want to sit there and I want to tell you a story. He goes, there was two guys. One was this rich rancher type dude, and he had sheep and herds of cattle, and he had all this farmland, and he had so much, and he had like I said, he had tons of sheep. And then there was this other guy who didn't have so much money. Actually, he was considered, in the Bible it says he was poor, and he had one sheep. He had one lamb, one sheep, and he loved this sheep. He looked at it almost like we would like our dog or our cat or whatever pet we would have. It became part of his family. He actually looked at this sheep like it was a daughter. Well, there was this big banquet that came up, and they have to have something to eat. and they're going to sacrifice a lamb. They're going to cook up a lamb. And so they go, well, who's going to give up the lamb or the sheep to cook for the people of this party? And what are we going to do? And the rich guy who has all these sheep, if one was missing, he would never know. He goes, the poor guy will give up his sheep, the one he loves. We're going to cook for the people. And that's what they do. And when David hears this, he becomes enraged. He gets mad and says, that rancher should die for what he did. And Nathan looks at David and goes, this story is basically about you. You have an entire kingdom in your hands. You can have anything in this land you want. You could have had any woman in this to marry that wasn't married to somebody else. You could have had anyone. But no, you wanted Uriah's wife. So you were willing to not sacrifice something of your own. You sacrificed Uriah to get what you wanted, so you didn't lose anything. And that hit David hard. It hit David hard. And there were consequences to come because of this, because of David, what he did to dishonor God. But even though this was a great sin, and it's a massive sin by David, it actually makes him think about what he did. And it puts him on a clear path of righteousness to follow Jesus. Now, he does marry Bathsheba, and Bathsheba has a son who we will come to know as Solomon. But one of the penalties that had to be paid was David got Bathsheba pregnant before Solomon, and that child was told before it was even conceived that he was going to die. This baby was going to die, and it did. And so God had to punish David for what he had done, and it grieved David mightily when this happened. But like I said, all this turned David into a true righteous man of God to really follow God. Guys, sometimes our mess ups do that. We see the pain and anguish of someone else and we say, we're never going to hurt somebody like that again, or things like that can happen. So guys, we're going to continue into this month. We're going to talk about Solomon. We're going to talk about a thing that was built called the temple this month. So hey, I hope you stick around and join with us and keep on watching these. Hey, have a great week. Verse is coming up next. It's a new verse, so hey, I hope you're watching these verses and learning them. Take it easy. We'll talk to you next time. Have a good one. Bye.
So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. 1 Corinthians 10:31.